Psychotherapist and founder of the so-called individual psychology, Alfred Adler, was the first researcher to identify the potential significance of birth order on personality, and his successors extensively researched this concept, hoping for what would be the perfect or almost perfect outcome, that each child's personality could be perfectly explained by their birth order. Of course, they were much wiser to know that things probably wouldn't be that simple, so they came up with an explanatory model that included not only numerical birth order, but also the way the child interprets it. In Adler models, firstborns tend to be neurotic because they don't have to share their parents for years and then get basically dethroned by the arrival of the younger child. He also considered the oldest children dutiful and sometimes conservative. According to Adler's model, the youngest children are ambitious, while the middle children are often characterized by emotional stability. Other psychologists, like psychologist Dr. Kevin Lehman, who wrote the birth order book, Why You Are the Way You Are, and some other psychologists believe that the secret to personality differences in siblings lies in birth order, whether a person is oldest, middle, youngest, or the only child, and how their parents treat those children. Mary Wallace, a child and family therapist for over 20 years, agrees about this birth order theory, positing that each position in the birth order has its advantages and challenges. Here's a brief review of the personality traits of children born in different birth orders. Number 1. Firstborn personality. Firstborns will naturally be raised with a mix of instinct and trial-and-error behavior simply by being a couple's first child. This often causes parents to treat parenthood as something that should be conducted by the book, but are also very attentive, stringent with rules, and possibly overly neurotic about subtle things. This, in turn, can cause a child to become a perfectionist and an ardent parent pleaser. It has been noticed by many psychologists and therapists that firstborns often have a tendency to behave like mini-adults, which could be explained by the fact that they thrive in their parents' presence. They are diligent and want to excel at anything and everything. Firstborns tend to display the following characteristics: reliable, conscientious, structured, cautious, controlling, and highly achieving. Firstborns do, however, have some advantages. Firstborn is accustomed to being mommy and daddy's center of the universe until the younger child arrives. As psychologist Frank Farley explains, it's not as easy when younger siblings are born because it disrupts this familiar dynamic for the firstborn who no longer has his parents' undivided attention. This is probably what causes firstborns to become overachievers, usually score high on IQ tests, getting more education than their brothers and sisters. Firstborns also tend to out-earn their siblings. Challenges are also a major part of the firstborn's life. They tend to be type A personalities, which are characterized by always working against the clock, a strong sense of competitiveness, higher stress levels, and intense fears of failures. They are also typically inflexible since they don't like change and are hesitant to step out of their comfort zone, according to Michelle P. Maidenberg, Ph.D. In addition, they are often given tasks that usually consist of housework and taking care of their younger siblings, which heightens the stress of already being an overachiever. Number 2. Middle child. If a couple decides to have a second child, they are less likely to treat that child with an iron fist as a result of their experience with their firstborn. If there is another child in the family, the parents are even less likely to give the middle child an adequate amount of attention. This often evolves into a people-pleasing trait. The middle child often feels lost and isn't sure where it belongs, since it's neither the oldest nor the youngest, according to therapist Mary Wallace. Dr. Lehman suggests that this kind of familiar background leads middle children to make their mark among their peers. Their most common traits are tendency to people-please, somewhat rebellious, thrive on friendships, have large social circles, and are often peacemakers. Their unique strengths include the constant ability to learn and constantly negotiate to fit in with everyone, and their default mode is always to go with the flow, especially when the younger sibling comes. Not surprisingly, Dr. Soloway notes, they tend to score higher on traits of agreeableness than both their older and younger siblings. They tend to form stronger emotional bonds with their friends or siblings than to their parents. According to Dr. Linda Dunlap, they are usually the first to take a trip with another family or want to sleep at a friend's house. Challenges these children encounter usually include the feeling that their needs and feelings are not being met because of the lack of adequate parental attention, which leads them to feel unvalued. Number 3. Youngest child. Children who are born last in the family typically aren't the most intelligent nor the most athletically gifted, but they do find a way to compensate for that by being natural charmers with outgoing and social personalities. They also tend to score higher on agreeableness on personality tests than firstborns, according to Dr. Soloway. The youngest children in the family also tend to be free-spirited and adventurous and are ready to take physical risks and engage in unconventional experiences much more than their older siblings. For example, research has shown that they are more likely to play sports like football and soccer than their older siblings, who preferred activities like track and tennis. Youngest are well known for their "nothing I do is important" attitude, according to Dr. Lehman. Sadly, as it turns out, none of their accomplishments seem original. Their siblings have already learned to talk, read, and ride a bike. This causes parents to react with less spontaneous joy at their accomplishments and may even wonder why the youngest child wasn't able to achieve those things earlier, which leads to disappointment. Youngest children are often the least disciplined because they use their role as the baby in the family to manipulate other family members to do what the last-born wants. They are often coddled by their parents when it comes to chores and rules, thus failing to hold them to the same standard as the other siblings. Number 4. Only child. This is a rather unique position within the family system. In this particular family system, there are no other siblings to compete with, and the only child gets to monopolize his parents' attention, and not just for a short period of time like firstborns, but forever. This situation makes the only child something like a super firstborn, implying that they are the only children that have all their parents' support and have to live up to all their expectations. These children tend to possess the following traits: mature for their age, perfectionist, conscientious, diligent, and with pronounced leadership skills. It is obvious that most of these descriptions won't be able to describe the full extent of a child's or an adult's personality because personality isn't as clear-cut. Many variables have to be taken into consideration for a more personalized prediction of a specific personality that go way beyond just plain numerical birth orders. Factors such as how the child interprets its birth order, the gap in years between children, etc. For example, many experts agree that an age gap of 5 or more years acts as a reset button. It is believed that it is possible to identify with more than one birth order category because, after all, every firstborn has been the oldest at one point, and middle children were once the youngest. As you can see, it is a quite complex, interesting, and fascinating subject. And if you like this video, then check out these related videos to see more.